Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Well, we are now right around the 6th, 7th of May, and grass is growing really good around the place. And one of the things that we have started to do over the last several years is use our handy dandy Austrian scythe to cut grass, particularly as it's reaching the seeding stage where it hasn't bloomed yet, but it's starting to send up its seed heads. And what we do is we try to, on areas that we don't mow regularly, we kind of let it go for a month of April to get up to that height. And then we come in and we cut it down for basically making our own grass straw. And it has very little active seed in it because the seed pods at this point have not fertilized. So once we cut it off, it makes an excellent mulch. Now, part of the reason we're going through that trouble is, I mean, years ago, what we used to do is we used to buy compost, like a urban waste compost, and it would be we'd get like a couple of truckloads a year, roughly about 20 yards in a load, and we would use that very liberally around the property in terms of for mulching and for garden work and things of that nature. And it actually made an excellent mulch, which lasted about a year. And then you'd have to do it over and over again. And when we first started that, it wasn't that expensive. I mean, we could get a load in and it would cost us somewhere right around 35 bucks a yard delivered, which isn't bad. A couple of years ago, particularly right after COVID, things got much, much more expensive. And we were getting to the point now where we were paying pretty close to. We get a load in, and it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of around almost $60 a yard delivered. And the reason why is we were getting hit with delivery charges that were reflective of increased fuel costs and things of that nature. And just in general, inflation started really eating into things. And so we had to make a decision to stop doing that. And so we started thinking about, within our own environment and where we're at, what is the thing that we have an abundance of that is organic and that can be used for a great mulch? And that's where grass made the most sense for us. Now, if we use like a regular rotary mower instead of a sickle bar mower, it would tend to chew it up and shred it. And basically, like when you mow a yard. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted more a slower decomposing form of it. And that's when, using the scythe, cutting it like hay, it's the same thing as using a powered sickle bar cutter. You would get that same type of thing. And then when laid down, it performed excellently in terms of weed suppression, as well as, even if you had grass growing, you could cut that down pretty quickly, put this nice layer over the top. And, in our case, we wouldn't get any really resprout on it. And it would be great mulch all the way through the summer. So we do probably ultimately in the end, over the course of this time between May and June, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably, I mean, I'm out here almost every day cutting something. So I'm guessing I do several tons of what you consider green hay, and I move it around to mulching areas. And what I try to do is also too is I have areas of grass that I could let go that are close to areas that I want to mulch. And so, yeah, it doesn't look, super sweet in April when the stuff starts to grow, get a little shaggy. Uh, but it's only for a few weeks, and then I come in and I cut it down. Now, typically in our climate, we do not get a second cutting of good grass. Once it goes to seed in our area, once it starts putting up the seed pods, we also are heading into our dry period of time. And actually, this year, we're getting drier earlier. It's been really pretty dry the last month. And although we had very high soil moisture from, big rains in March and during the winter, we ended up with, really just less than an inch of rain probably in the last 4 weeks. and at least in our area. And so things are drying out. So when the grass is cut, it comes back a little bit, but I just simply mow it with a regular mower after that. We're not going to get a second cropping. Whereas in an area of the country where they get more, I guess you would call it a more humid climate, where you tend to have thunderstorms and regular rain during the summer, we'll go dry from pretty much now until early September. And so the grass in our area, after it goes through this seed phase, heads to dormancy. And so, and actually, that's kind of a good thing because I don't want to be cutting grass all summer. So I just want to give you a quick primer. We did videos on, the scythe and, how to use it. One of the key points on this is with people, I think with scythes, if you have one, is you got to keep this blade peened. And typically after, in my case, what I find is, if I'm just doing regular cutting and I didn't get any dings or nicks or anything like that on the blade from, rough ground or anything like that, I find that I'm honing the blade probably about every 5 or 10 minutes. But it's basically, you're taking the tapered end and you're leaning that against the top, which I forgot the exact name of it, but you're basically the top of the blade, and you're going down and you're honing, and you just want to move down the blade and then do a swipe off the back to take off any kind of burr that might be on the back. And that's it. It's like just a couple of seconds. You don't sit there and just, wail on it and wail on it and wail on it. One of the other tricks that I found with the blade is, when you find that it's not cutting well, and you seem to be like, instead of, being 10-15 minutes of good cutting, you're getting it down to like, as the blade loses its ability to hold its edge, meaning it's heading back into a need for repeening, that what you're going to find is that it gets quicker and quicker between the times you have to hone the blade with your whetstone. And I've kind of can lengthen it out a little bit more with I have two stones. I have a fine stone, which is what I'm using on this blade today. And then I have a coarse stone that I use on the blade a few times before I take it in for peening. It kind of gives me just a little bit extra time of cutting, but you don't want to use the coarse stone on this blade too much because it just basically doesn't put as fine an edge on it as the the finer stone. It's got a little bit different taper. If you notice that the taper on this guy is, really pretty sharp to the point, where the coarse one is, the angle on it's just a little bit different. And that is basically it. We just cut and we put it into a windrow, and then we take it and using a hay fork, and we'll just move it on to, covering what we need to cover. That's my exciting video for today. But what I'm trying to get to is when you're buying compost anymore, it's very expensive, and there still is an ever increasing seems to be problem with contamination. And that was the other thing that we were able to kind of push us into the realm of getting away from urban compost. And it just didn't seem like it was very sustainable for us to do. So I know I've heard horror stories where people have bought in compost and they've put it into, beds that they've spent years, getting them just right. And then you find out that you contaminated your soil, and it's a nightmare. And so we just kind of want to stay away from that. And besides, what we're doing is we're also feeding the plants with the nutrients that, the grass is being able to pull out of the ground here. And it just goes back into, helping the other plants thrive. So that's it, folks. So I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of me cutting stuff. It's going to be really exciting, and then we're just going to kind of wrap things up from there. So again, if you want to learn more about this tool, check out our videos on it. We'll put links at the end of this video on it, how we use a brush blade, which is also very useful for getting rid of things like blackberries and things of that nature. And the nice thing about this is it's human powered, so you don't have to worry about putting gas in it. You know, the only gas is you. So the one thing about about these blades is you just got to let them float on the surface. Don't try to push it. And if you find, that you find things in the grass that you don't want to cut, you can, very gently lift things away. You can also, over time, as you get better and better at this, you'll find that you can cut closer and closer to things like around the trees itself, and keep things actually pretty tidy. And what I do is I don't worry about getting it, fine like a yard, because I'm not cutting for that purpose. And I can come back over this with a mower to make it all just beautiful. And what I'm going for today is I'm just trying to get, a pile of mulch to put on my beds. And it's just a matter of swinging, using the back more than the spindle. Okay, if you find yourself, when you're using these tools, to be wailing at things using the spindle, you're going to break the handle and you're going to break the spindle. And so the power is really in the backswing towards the front, and you're just letting the blade float along. Don't try to take such a big bite of things that you're trying to choke this down, because there's different types of grass have different densities and coarseness to it. Some grass is harder to cut than others. What I found is the toughest stuff to cut is the grass that is kind of fine and maybe doesn't have as thick of stem. Tends to be a little more difficult to cut. The other thing that I've noticed also too is time of day is important. If you're cutting into the heat of the day, what you're going to find is you're going to find the grass isn't as rigid as it is in the morning when it's nice and cool. And it's frankly a lot more pleasant to cut stuff when it's cool anyway. So there's some things I didn't get cleaned up out here that I've got to get rid of. And that's it's actually more enjoyable too, because it's kind of quiet. You don't have either a high-pitched whine from an electric battery operated unit or a gas powered thing. So it's actually kind of nice and quiet. It's more relaxing, and after a while you get into a rhythm with it. And I think you guys have finally, you would find that you enjoy doing that. It gets you outside. You can listen to the birds and other things as you go along and make your cuts. So folks, thanks for watching today. And this is just kind of a public service announcement. I don't know if the right term for it is, but I just wanted to kind of, remind folks that, there is stuff around your own property that you can use that makes an excellent mulch and an excellent organic additive to your flower beds or your garden. And you don't always have to go out and buy, $60 a yard compost or $80 a yard bark dust. Or, however, I understand if you're in, areas where certain neatness has to look a certain way, those things do make a whole lot of sense. But, in our case out here in the country, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pay a lot of money to bring in stuff from far away when we have an abundant resource here on the property, which is grass. Anyway, take care, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.